Hey friends, welcome back. Thanks for tuning back in. I am driving home from the gym right now, so hopefully everyone can hear me okay. And if I pause for a second, that's because I'm paying attention to something on the road, so forgive that too. I am hands-free though. Always be hands-free in the car. But I'm on the way back from the gym, and it just kind of sparked some thoughts. I'm officially out of my winter slump. I'm prioritizing and focused on getting back into the swing of things, getting back to the gym consistently, all that good stuff. So been going to the gym again, and I was there today, and I just got my wheels turning a little bit because obviously I took some time off around the holidays, and I kind of have been slacking this January, so I really haven't been good about keeping up with my workouts the last probably 2 months. And you know what, you lose muscle mass so quickly, and I can tell I'm just a little bit worse off with everything than I was before I went on my little extended winter break. If I could do 135 pounds of something, before the holidays, now I'm finding myself kind of only doing 115. So, just stuff like that, nothing crazy, but definitely went down a notch in the abilities. Again, not to be unexpected, we lose muscle mass so quickly. You really got to stay in it to keep on top of things, and especially if you're trying to build muscle and strength. But anyhow, that got me thinking, because for a second I was kind of like, I'm bummed because I backslid, right? I went backwards. And then I reminded myself, it's okay, well, obviously you went backwards because you took some time off and you haven't been very diligent about it. And obviously, what did you expect? And then I kind of looked around. I was kind of looking around the gym, paying attention. And, it just got me thinking, I wonder what everybody else's story is. I wonder where everybody else is at on their journey. What's going on in their lives. And when you're at somewhere like the gym, it's just so right in your face, how variable, everyone is, and how varying stages of life are, and where people fit in those stages of life and everything else. I mean, you see some people that look like they haven't worked out in 10 years and they're trying to get back into a healthy lifestyle. You see some people that just look like the perfect physical specimen, they're strong, they're toned, they're lean, they're healthy. And then you see a lot of people in between that are just somewhere on the spectrum. And it's human nature to want to compare ourselves to other people around us, to other people in our tribe. Again, it's a very primal thing, that we are tribal creatures. We like to live in a herd, just like horses do, or just like any other animal that travels in a pack or a herd or a pride. Humans are very tribal creatures, and a lot of how we react, and a lot of what we do, and a lot of how we think, and a lot of our perspective comes from our tribe around us, and what we see around us. And that's why, I'm sure people have heard, I can't remember what book this came from or who quoted this, so I apologize for not being able to cite it, but it does come from some book out there. I didn't make it up, but the theory goes that you should surround yourself, if you want to be really successful, if you want to be really fulfilled, if you want to drive your life further and achieve more, you should constantly be striving to surround yourself with all types of people, right? Like you should make time to be in the company of people that maybe don't have, they're aspiring to have the life that you already have. Like, people that would look to you as a mentor, people that would look up to you, people that would admire you and inspire to be like you. You should spend, a portion of your time with those people. And then you should spend a portion of your time with people who are right on your level. They're right there with you. They're right on your same level as far as their accomplishments, their achievements, their status, their abilities. Like people that are right there, your peers, right there on your level. And then you should also surround yourself with a portion of people and company that are higher than you, that are above you, that live a lifestyle or have achieved things that you aspire to do. Like people that you look up to, people that you would consider a mentor, people that you want to be like. And that keeps us very well rounded because it keeps us humble, because we're reminded that we have things that other people aspire to have, and we should help those people achieve those things, help them get to the level that we're at. And then it also reminds us that there's something else out there, and if we want to achieve something better, we should push ourselves. Like surrounding yourself by people who have more than you, who do it better than you, who are where your dream life wants to be. Like they push us to be better. They push us to try harder, as long as we don't let that company intimidate us. And I was kind of thinking about that a little bit at the gym, because there's just as far as physical fitness goes, there's every walk of life there. Like I said, there's people who look like they probably haven't worked out in 10 years. And then there's people that just are just the epitome of what physical fitness looks like from the outside. And, then there's all this in between. Like there's people that might be really strong on the weights, but maybe they aren't so good doing cardio on the treadmill. Or maybe there's people that are really strong with their legs, but not so strong with their arms, or vice versa. So there's a little bit of everything there, a little bit of variety of everything. And it's, like I said, it's human nature for us to compare ourselves to other people in our tribe, other people that we see in our surroundings. And it's kind of easy to, first of all, see people that maybe are worse off than you, and that makes you feel better about yourself. And then it's also easy to look at people who are better off than you and allow that to make you feel bad about yourself. And if you think about the gym, if you think about going to work out as that example, it's easy to get intimidated, when you're in there. Like if you're trying to build muscle, like I struggle with upper body strength. Like my legs are pretty strong, but I really struggle with upper body strength. It's easy to allow yourself to compare yourself to other people and get bummed out because you're not getting where you want to be as fast as you want to be getting where you want to be. And if I'm doing some sort of arm workout and I can only do a little amount of weight, and then the person next to me is pumping 200 pounds, it's easy to compare yourself to that other person and be discouraged or be intimidated or be like, man, why can't I get better at this quicker? Why can't I make progress quicker? And what am I doing wrong? And That's just one example. You can use many examples from something like the gym. But I think Theodore Roosevelt said this. I think he originally said this. It's one of my favorite quotes. Comparison is the thief of joy. And I promise you, if you go to the gym and instead of looking at who's worse off than you, who's better off than you, who's stronger than you, who's weaker than you, who's faster on the treadmill than you, who's slower on the treadmill than you, if you just block all of that out and focus on yourself and your journey and what you're doing and where you're at and your progress, you are going to be so much happier, so much more fulfilled, so much more likely to go back tomorrow to that same gym and keep trying again, over and over and over. And I want to just take that example and I want to extrapolate it out to life. Because like everything on this podcast, I try to pull examples from things, little things in life, but they're applicable to the bigger life picture. And comparison is the thief of joy is true in everything in life. In the big things, the little things, the overall umbrella of it all. If you are focused on comparing yourself to other people, you are never going to be as fulfilled, as happy, and as at peace if you would not do that. The same is true in life as with the gym. There's always somebody that is stronger than you. There's always somebody that is weaker than you. There's always going to be somebody that is better at one thing than you are, but worse at another thing than you are. Take the examples from the gym and apply them to real life. There's always going to be somebody richer than you, but there's always going to be someone poorer than you as well. Like there's always going to be somebody with a bigger house than you, but there's going to be someone with a smaller house too. Better car, worse car, better relationships, worse relationships. I mean, anything in life, better job, worse jobs, anything in life. Somebody's going to have it better than you and somebody's going to have it worse than you. And if we spend our energy keeping score and trying to count who has what and who doesn't have what, you're just going to get swallowed up in that. And you're probably going to be a very unhappy person, to be very honest, because you're always going to feel like you don't have enough if you're always comparing yourself to other people who have more. And if you're someone who finds joy in having more than someone else, that's not really a very pure source of joy. If you get your jollies off because you know that you have more than your neighbor down the street, I mean, yeah, like I guess that might be a short-lived kind of satisfaction, but that's not kind-hearted. And usually things that are not kind-hearted don't actually bring you long-lasting fulfillment and long-lasting joy and long-lasting peace. So no matter how you spin it, if you're looking at somebody who has it worse off than you, and that makes you feel good and that makes you want to pat yourself on the back, it's just not really a very kind-hearted way to view the world around you. And if you're comparing yourself to people who have better than you and then feeling inadequate or insecure or intimidated, like that's not going to bring you happiness and joy either, because you're, instead of focusing and being grateful for what you do have in this very moment, you're just beating yourself up because you don't have more. So instead of being intimidated by those people who have more than you, or who have something better than you, that you perceive better than you, I should say, or instead of, being bummed that they have a life that you want and you don't have it, don't, go back to what I talked about earlier. Like, go make friends with those people. Like, go try to enter their world. Go try to surround yourself with those people that have more than you, and don't let it make you feel bad about yourself. Like, you are who you surround yourself with, right? Like, didn't your mom ever tell you you are who your friends are? Like, so go to those people. Don't be intimidated by that lifestyle or by what they do, different or have different. Like, just, submerge yourself in it and be like, okay, like, yeah, like, if this is what I want, then let me talk to the people who obviously know how to get it, and let me kind of copy them, and let me get it too, because you're worthy of having it just as much as they are. So, all that being said, again, comparison is the thief of joy. Don't do that to yourself. Live right here in your journey, in your moment, and be grateful and appreciative of what you have, without counting everybody else's things, without keeping score on what everybody else is doing, whether it's worse or better. Be present in your moment and live your journey. And the other thing when we talk about comparison is a lot of times when we are trying to well, nobody tries to, but when we do naturally compare ourselves to other people, and we don't stop that part of our brain from doing that, when we do compare ourselves to other people, when we do count what other people have or don't have, or keep score of what they're doing or not doing, the reality is we really don't do that. We don't do the comparison very accurately. And what I mean by that is, you never know somebody else's story. Like, you never know what is going on behind closed doors. You never know where in life someone else is, like what season they're in, what phase they're in, what they're potentially going through. So it's really easy to look at something from the outside looking in and think you got it figured out. But in reality, you don't. So yeah, you can look at somebody who lives down the street from you, and they have a big, beautiful house, and it costs a lot of money, and you can say, man, they must have it all. Like, they must have everything. They got that big expensive house. Like, they must have it all. But that big expensive house is a snapshot into a world that you know nothing about. Like, we don't know what other people are dealing with or struggling with. I mean, maybe that person has that big expensive house and they can't pay their bills because they bought a house they can't afford. Or maybe that person has that big expensive house, but they just lost a loved one and they're going through a terrible period of grief and tragedy. Or maybe that person has that big expensive house and they just found out they have, a terrible illness, and now they're going to have health problems for the rest of their life. Or maybe they have that big expensive house and their world is perfect. I mean, I'm not saying that you can't have it perfect, or you can't have it all being great either. Like, that's also a possibility. But my point I'm trying to make is, you don't know. From the outside looking in, you don't know. Sometimes things look very perfect to us from the outside looking in, and it's not so perfect, to the people who are living that life or living that experience. I mean, the same can be said on the flip side. I mean, we can look at someone and think that, they're struggling, or think that they're not doing very well, and in fact, maybe for where they are in life, they're killing it. Like, maybe they're achieving and excelling, and they're so happy and so excited, and because they're on their own journey, and for where they are in life, they're doing more than they ever thought that they would be able to do. And I think about my horse when I talk about that, because if you listen to some of these podcasts, you know that my one horse that I compete on, we had some hiccups the last few years, and it's kind of been a rocky road. And, long story short, we're trying to get back into the swing of things. And, the last barrel race that I took her to, we placed the very last hole in the third division, which basically means you were just slightly less than 2 seconds off of the fastest time. And the whole divisional thing in barrel racing is a whole talk for another day. But anyhow, for what me and that horse have done in the past, that time was actually slower than, what we have been capable of in the past. But we went through this rocky road. We had to take some time off. We had to start over. We had to go back to the basics. We had to retrain. And my goal for her this past season was just to start taking her back to races, not push her, just go slow and easy around the pattern, just start building our confidence up, just have good, clean runs, like not worried about speed. And the last race we went to, it was just perfect, because I didn't push her. I didn't ask her for a lot of speed. I let her go at her own pace, but it was a clean run. It was a smooth run. Like, we were communicating. She was paying attention to me. It felt good. And, it was at the bottom of the third division, and I couldn't have been happier. Like, I could not have been any happier with that performance. Like, I was so excited. It felt so good. And I just was like, yes, we're back on the right track. And I'm bringing up that example because, again, comparison. Like, someone else probably looked at me make that run and thought, wow, like, they're a lot slower than they used to be. Or, wow, like, that's a lot slower than my horse goes. Or, thoughts like that. And while those thoughts are accurate, it doesn't mean that I'm in a bad place, or that the horse is in a bad place. Like, we're in a great place. It's like we're climbing back up. We're on the uphill trajectory, and like, we're happy about where we are. So assuming that we can look at someone else's performance, or achievements, or someone else's life from the outside looking in, and think we got it all figured out, is really not healthy, and it's really not fair to one another. Because the reality is we don't know what is going on in people's lives. We don't know what they're dealing with. And, we can't know the ins and outs of their journey, or what is going on in their life. And so keeping score and counting what they have, counting what they don't have, counting how they do versus how you do, it's not healthy. And it will rob you of a lot of joy and happiness if that's how you live your life. If I would have gone that barrel race and that run that I just talked about, if I would have gone to that barrel race and left feeling discouraged because, we only ran a bottom of the third division time, and all these other horses were faster than us, and we used to be faster than this, and like, man, we're so slow. If I would have walked away with that attitude, comparing myself to what other people were doing, comparing myself to, what we were capable of in the past before we took time off and before we had to, start over again, if I would have compared myself to that other outside stuff, it would have robbed me of the joy and the fulfillment and the satisfaction of knowing how much progress we have made and how good we're doing for the phase of our journey that we're on. So think about that as you go through your week, your month. Comparison is a thief of all joy, and it's really hard, especially with social media now and just how fast information travels and how much we can share with each other. Everybody else's life is like always in our face, it seems. So just don't get lost in that spiral. Like don't get lost in comparing yourself and your life to everyone and everybody around you, because it will rob you of probably a lot of joy, a lot of peace, and a lot of fulfillment. If you instead just focus on you, focus on where you are, focus on your life, this moment. Where are you in your path and in your journey and in your season of life? And, find gratefulness and appreciation in that. Not to say you like we always say on here, not to say you can't want more. Wanting more is healthy. Like, set some goals, go after some achievements, better your life. But don't do it because you're comparing yourself to Joe Schmo down the street. Don't do it for that reason. Do it for you because you want something different. And you can still be trying to achieve something different while being appreciative and grateful and content in this very moment that you're living in. You can do both things at the same time. So I hope that speaks to someone out there. I hope that makes a little bit of sense. We don't ever know what is going on in people's lives. Tragedies, struggles, hurdles, financial stuff, or maybe everything's perfectly perfect for the time being. But I guarantee you, nobody's life is perfectly perfect all the time. Like we all go through ups and downs. So at some point, people are going to be struggling, no matter who they are, with something. So comparison is a thief of joy. Save yourself that heartache and just live right here in your own life, in your own moment, and be appreciative and grateful for the things that you have and the progress you're making, on your own journey based on your season of life. All right. I will talk to everyone again soon, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Bye.